Well, when your girls are producing extra, more than you need, what do you do with all the milk? You make some cheese. Hey folks, welcome back to the Rockin' Sea Homestead. My name is Lance. I want to welcome you to our channel, and today we're in the kitchen, and like you already heard, we're making cheese because our girls are producing some milk, and we have 2 gallons up here. We have 2 more gallons in the fridge that are probably going to turn into mozzarella at some point. If you guys haven't checked out that video, we did make one. It'll be right up here on a card later in the video. But our favorite cheese of all the ones that we've made so far has been a cheese called Chevre or Chevre. Depends on how you want to pronounce it. We call it Chevre. It's a French word. It means goat cheese. And this is what that's how it's spelt. And this is actually the culture for it. So you only need just a few ingredients to actually make this cheese at home. Of course, you need the milk. You can even use pasteurized milk, but not ultra pasteurized. So ours are raw. That's what we choose to do, but you could pasteurize it or get pasteurized milk and use it. And again, you need some culture to make it work. And then you need some rennet. And this is going to help it curd up. This is actually animal rennet, but they do make plant rennet. We have some of that, but I like this one a little bit better. And then you just need a couple, like you need a big stainless steel pot, big stainless steel spoon. As much as you can do stainless steel wise, the better off you can be. We've got a really long thermometer here to make sure that we get our milk heated up to the right temperature. And now at this point, let's get some cheese made. So the first step in this delicious cheese recipe is to heat up the milk. We're going to heat this up to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, which turns out to be about 31.1 degrees Celsius for those that are on the metric system. Here in America, we use Fahrenheit. So again, we're just going to pour this in. And again, we're going to do a 2-gallon batch. And I like to scrape out any cream that's hanging out, just to make sure it's extra creamy. All right, so that is 2 gallons of milk in the pot. And as you can tell, this pot's way bigger than the 2 gallons, but that's going to be helpful later on in a couple more steps as we go through. And at this point, you just want to heat that milk up, like I was saying earlier, to 88 degrees or 31 degrees Celsius. And I try to heat it up very slowly, so usually on our oven, it's about a 2 or 3. And typically it takes probably about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how quick your oven is. But the main thing is I just don't want to scorch the milk. And the milk just came out of the fridge, so it's pretty chill at this point. It's in the low 40s, so it's going to take a while to get up to that 88 degrees. And at this point, you're just going to heat that up. You're going to continually kind of stir it. And then once it comes up to 88 degrees, we'll come back for the next step. All right, so the milk is a little bit past 88 degrees. This is fine. It's at 93.7. That will be good enough. I try to keep it at least below 95. And just like to keep it stirred up there. So this next step is you take the little packets that I was showing you earlier. And since this is a 2-gallon batch, we're going to use 2 of these packets. And we're just going to spread it around the top, and then we're just going to let it soak there for 5 minutes. And that's going to be able to activate any of those cultures that are in there. And then we'll go to the next step. You just want to kind of get it spread out as much as you can. And whatever cultures I have, we do keep these in the freezer and we keep them frozen until we're ready to use them. And it keeps them fresh and usable. All right, so that's just setting on top there. And We'll let this rest for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and show you the next step. All right, so the 5-minute wait time is over. So now we're going to stir in the culture, and really what you want to do is kind of dig deep and kind of lift up with your spoon, and that's going to kind of stir the milk from the bottom up, and that's just to ensure that you get all of the goodness mixed in. All right, so that portion is done. So now all we'll have to do is the rennet, and for this recipe, since we're doing 2 gallons, you'll need 2/3 of a cup of cool water. If you're just going to do 1 gallon, you'd use just 1/3. And then we're going to use 4 drops. So 2 drops for each gallon of milk. 2, 3, 4. And I just like to stir it up in the water. And then the rennet, just kind of pour it so it gets all over everywhere. And same thing with the cultures. You're just going to come in here and you're going to stir it for 1 minute. Don't need to go much longer than that. And you're just going to mix from the bottom up. And that just ensures that everything gets mixed up thoroughly. All right, so the rennet's all mixed in. So at this point, all the prep work is done and the cheese is actually making itself at this point. So all that we're going to do now is we're going to put a lid on it and we're going to let it sit here for the next 12 hours. We're going to set it up overnight. So we like to do this in the evening time so we can let it set overnight and we don't have to worry about it. First thing in the morning, we'll wake up and then we'll process it. So we'll bring you guys along tomorrow morning as we take on the next steps. All right, so it's morning time. It's been approximately 12 hours and the whey has separated from the curds. As I tilt that, you see that there's whey down here, kind of a yellowish color. And that, as you can tell, is some nice curds. So for this recipe, you don't have to cut it. You don't have to do any of that stuff. All that you have to do at this point is we're going to scoop it out. We're going to dispose of the whey. So if you want to keep the whey, you can. We have a little bit already, so we don't want to have way too much of it. Kind of funny, right? First time. Anyways, maybe too early for jokes. Anyway, so we're just going to scoop this out. So I just take my big spoon here and just spoon it out. And all that we're trying to do is break it up a little bit. And this curd looks really good. All right, so we got all of the curd into the colander now. Now I'm just trying to get as much whey as I can off of it. And we're almost ready for the next step here. I'm just trying to get a little bit more off as much as I can. Oh, this is so heavy. All right, so we got a lot of the whey out of the curd already. And now it's time to wrap this thing in cheesecloth. Now I got some cheesecloth here. I did boil this, I sterilized it. So if I didn't talk about that earlier in the video, sterilization is very, very important. So make sure that you got all your stuff sterilized, your pot, your spoons, everything you can. You want to try to keep everything as clean as possible because you don't want to introduce any kind of things into the cheese. So I just kind of have that leaning over. And then what I'll start doing is scooping this one more time, but into the cheesecloth. And then it's going to be time to hang it. And why we hang it is to get all the rest of the whey out. So the next step in this, once we have the cheesecloth nice and tied up, is it will be a 4-hour strain with the cheesecloth. And you do want to get some high quality cheesecloth. Just don't go to your local grocery store and get the real stuff that's kind of, I wouldn't even call it cheesecloth, but it's somewhat cheeseclothy. And you want to get some good cheesecloth that's really tight weaved. like where we get all of our cultures and everything like that, we get it from a place called New England Cheese Making Company or something like that. I'll put a link down below in the video, but they have some great products. That's where we get our Chevre culture and all that kind of stuff. All their products have been fantastic, so that's where we get our cheese making products. And if I lose a few of it on the side, that's okay. This yields a real high amount of cheese per milk, so we're going to have plenty of it. All right, now since we have all of our cheese in the cheesecloth, now we're just going to wrap it up into a tight ball. And this is kind of a long rectangular one, so it's always fun tying this up. Make sure you get it nice and tight. So you can see as I lift it up, it's a fair amount of cheese there. And you can see the waste coming off of it. That's what you want. All right, so we got this all tied up here. As you can see, there's quite a bit of space between the cheese and the bottom of the pan, so that's going to drain out. So at this point, we're going to let it sit here for 4 hours, let it drain out some more. And then after that is the next to last step. So we're just going to put this aside. I just put the lid back on to make sure nothing really gets in there. Set it aside and wait 4 hours. All right, folks, so now we're down to our last step here with our cheese. This has been draining for 4 hours. And as you can see, no more draining. It's definitely firmed up some. And you can look at the way here. Quite a bit came back off of it. So we're just gonna set that aside for now. And then I'm just gonna untie all this. And it's just gonna come out in a big ball. There we go. So as you can see, we got quite a bit of cheese here. So now really the only thing we've got to do at this point is salt it. So typically I use about, on a single batch, which would be a gallon of milk, I would use about 1 tablespoon, maybe 1.5. We doubled it. Now of course you can do less or more salt depending on your taste. Now one of the things that the salt does do is it does stop the cultures from progressing any further. So not only does the salt help with taste, it also helps the cheese stabilize and kind of stops it from working internally there. So I just try to sprinkle some on and then I'll mix it all up. And I'm just using my big spoon that I was using earlier. Then I'll go back through and do it one more time. And this has such a good cheesy smell to it already. It's not like a cheddar smell or any of that kind of stuff. It's a little more, I don't know what you would call it, but it's not like a sharp cheddar or any of that kind of stuff. That would come with aging this if you wanted to age it. Now this is ready to be eaten right now. There's so many different things you can do with this. You can cook with it, you can put it on burgers, you can, like my daughter, she uses it kind of like as a cream cheese. She uses it on bagels in the morning. You know, you can use it on with some of our pepper jelly and kind of like a cream cheese where you're making some kind of like a cracker kind of cheese jelly kind of deal. One of the ways that we really like to use it is we like to mix some herbs in it, a little bit of olive oil, and have it with some fresh tomatoes out of the garden, and maybe a little cracker or two. And it is super delicious that way. So at this point, I'm going to put this in the fridge, let it cool down. And then later today, we'll actually take it out and separate it into smaller like rolls, and we'll put it in plastic wrap, roll it. Some of it will freeze, some of it will refrigerate it and eat and use it immediately. Let me see if I can kind of take a test here. And you can see it's very soft and not very crumbly at this point. Very creamy. I think it may need just a little bit more salt, but such a great flavor. All right, folks, well, that is how you make Chevre. Like I said, we're gonna put this in the fridge, let it cool down, and then we'll separate it out and store it. Long term, we can either freeze it, put it in the refrigerator. It lasts quite a while in the refrigerator, but we have got some great Chevre here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and you understand how to make Chevre now. And if you have any questions, make sure that you leave those in a comment down below. Make sure you check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Those links are down below. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, there's a button right down there. Click that, ring that bell so you get notified every time we put out a video. And from our homestead to yours, have a blessed day, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.